Chris Greco is the president and CEO of StoreWise Inc. It's a tech company building automation for food retailers. He's also the author of 8 Steps to Overcoming Everyday Adversity. He's also a triathlete. Welcome, Chris.
Good to be here, George.
Excited to have you on, Chris. Tell us a little bit about your personal life, some more about your work, why you do what you do.
I love things that are tough, and early stage building early stage companies like we're doing at StoreWise, and there are two previous ones that we're a part of. So this is the first time I've been I've been able to come on board as president and CEO to really make an impact and difference. Is just exciting. So I never shy away from a challenge, and I think that early stage companies, especially StoreWise, given our mission is to really help food retailers, specifically the independent neighborhood grocer. This is not the Walmart, not the dollar store, not the Kroger, but your neighborhood supermarket to really leverage technology to make their operations more efficient and better. And that's a purpose, a mission and purpose that all of us at StoreWise are really excited about.
I appreciate that. My perception is that those neighborhood grocers are probably under assault.
Big time. So the supermarket in that industry is $1 trillion, and it's dominated by really 4 or 5 players. Yeah, the ones I just named, Walmart, Dollar. Dollar is creating these food deserts out in these smaller communities, which is bad. I mean, George, you and I just spoke about our kids, right? I wake up every day and I don't want Jonathan or Amanda, my teenagers, when they have families, to have only a few options, which is Walmart and Dollar and maybe one other, to go shopping for food. I want the independent grocer to not only survive but thrive, and that's what that's near and dear to our hearts. And I want to make sure that StoreWise has their place in supporting that goal. I mean, a lot of these independent grocers started with a produce stand 2 or 3 generations ago. It's a generational family business that all of us at StoreWise are really jazzed about. So we're excited. I think given the recent news, we just took on a major investor with Nexa Equity, great capital partner. And then we actually just made our first acquisition. We acquired a company by the name of Margin Max. So we feel that StoreWise is going to become the de facto software platform for independent grocers.
Nice. Is it knowable how many independent grocers there are?
There's 21,000 stores nationwide. And if you think about the top 5, Walmart, Dollar, Albertsons, Aldi, Trader Joe's, they're about 28,000 stores. But the independents usually have a smaller footprint. I think they do fresh food better. They do specialty food better. They do customer service for sure better. And again, I want to see my local hen house and Constantino's here in Kansas City. They're great, phenomenal grocers, very passionate about serving the community. I mean, when was the last time you saw Walmart on a kid's soccer jersey, or a Dollar?
Yeah,
never. Like never. So it's important for all your listeners to understand that there really isn't a community without an independent grocer.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So what are the big challenges to an independent grocer? I'm sure that certain areas margins are paper thin, but I guess what are you working to solve?
It is so price image matters most. When you walk into a store, you want to, as a consumer, you want to understand that, hey, am I getting good value? Are the items that I really desire, are they in the store, and are they priced competitively? I know in all the research that we do, the consumers don't necessarily just go for the cheapest, but they really are able to balance out that quality, versus price. Now with inflation, we have seen more consumers shop at big box. But look, if you go through the pandemic, you'll see how essential we saw how essential the independent grocer, really is. So our software helps with their price image, from not only understanding movement, because we just I'll go tangential here on a technical track. We actually capture every single receipt, so we integrate directly with the point of sale, the cash register, and we look at every single receipt, and we're 100% in the cloud, and we have thousands of algorithms that helps the grocer make better pricing decisions. They help them understand, hey, where am I having some losses, where am I making mistakes, how can I order better at a better cost, how can I quickly see how I'm performing, day over day, week over week, year over year. These are, and have that all in one nice, beautiful, suite that you can see anywhere, whether they're, grocers don't vacation much. They're some of the hardest working people that I've ever, and I mean that wholeheartedly, that I ever met. But the fact that they can see that information from any device also matters. So, when I came into the company in 2020, we had, just under 200 stores using the platform. And before we acquired Margin Max, we were approaching north of 600, and now we're banging on almost 1,000.
Nice. So price image. Tell me more. It's not obvious to me what that is. Like the actual prices people see.
Yeah. So price. Yeah. So price image. So I would say it's an industry term. So that's a great question. So when you walk into a store and you go down an aisle, you'll see these tags, and you wanna have a sense that, hey, there's a lot of promotions, everyday low price, temporary price reductions. Um, your what's called your known value item, the things that the consumers will know right off the top of their head, which is, this is a great price on milk, this is a great price on bread, this is a great price on chips and soda. Those all that our software actually brings intelligence to how the grocer prices those items, and that's what's critical. There's a saying that a fast nickel is better than a slow dime in grocery, and what that means, they want to drive movement, turn the inventory, and that's really critical. And our software, our platform can help enable that.
All that makes perfect sense. There are certain items that I know how much they cost when I go into a grocery store, but probably not that many.
Yep.
And I'm thinking that certainly other people's behaviors are different. In fact, my wife's behavior is probably different than mine. But before automation, then I'm going on feel, because I've been a grocer and it's been in my family for 30 years. So we sort of have a sense of, well, here's how we're going to do it. And it's this time of year, it's the 4th of July. So we're going to push this out. But now you have able to pull all this information and take into consideration, well, because of the supply chain and inflation, these items are going to be more expensive. So we need to make sure that we're changing our pricing.
But you don't want to, and look, we have customers that are celebrating over 100 years, right, in business. You don't want to take away that intuition. That's important. That's a competitive advantage. Because that passion and know-how, that's something that big box, I think, is hard for them to replicate. So in the era of AI and machine learning, there's a case to be made for a rules-based approach, which is right now the approach that StoreWise is taking. What it does account for that grocer intuition and allows them to make that final decision to how they price their store, how they protect against malicious and non-malicious malicious stuff and non-malicious mistakes. I think that's important. And look, it doesn't matter what we think. The market is telling us that's important, as evidenced by our growth.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Now, information is great, but how is it usable? How do I pick this up? So tell me a little bit about, is it you create a dashboard, you map a store, how does it actually work?
Yeah, we created it's a single dashboard, and you can see there's actually a video on our site, and actually there's images on our site. You can see how clean it is. I think the testament to how well we've developed. And look, nothing's perfect, right? Software is hard, but the UI, what's called a user interface. So what that means is how does a grocer who shouldn't have to care about technology, really worry about how to use technology. Is it simple to use? Yes or no? And the number one job of our engineering team is to deliver simplicity. And if it's simple to use, if it's simple to operate, it'll get used. If it gets used, it'll drive results, and those results we're seeing are either an increase in profitability or a time savings that is really important for the independent grocer.
That makes a lot of sense. Deliver simplicity versus, hey, I've created this incredibly complicated thing that you're never going to understand. It kind of makes me think of
Yeah.
Salesforce now that I kind of talk about that, but
but
that's
they're still around. But you see all the competitors that Salesforce has, right? And that's and you wonder why Salesforce and Benioff. I think he did a great job starting his company. But yeah, I think the ability to the fact that we've been around now, we're going on year 6. We're relatively new. Actually, 6 years in technology is old. In grocery, we are babies. And that's something that we've had to overcome with in terms of our growth. Saying, hey, are you guys gonna be here? Are you gonna sell out? And I think we've proven that we're not only going to be here, but we're actually acquiring other companies and consolidating to make it easier for the independent grocer to act. But I think it's important that simplicity is really the number one objective in software. Because if it doesn't get utilized, then what's the purpose?
yeah, exactly. What does the sales process look like in implementation? Because I'm sure it's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world just to change what you're doing and implement something new.
So that's a great question. So I'll answer it this way. Most of in our early, we're kind of now entering this, growth stage of the company where we are early now. I think we're really on our way and have, traction of identified market fit. We've come in and we've sit on top of other software that they have that hasn't been easy, easy to use, but we're now seeing we're actually displacing because we really have 6 modules, so I can go through all of them, but if we had more time, that actually impacts some of the most important operations for the grocer. And now they're looking like, look, now they're asking questions like, what do I really need? And I think that we're doing a better job of not coming in and saying, hey, here's our pitch, but hey, let me understand. And this is important for any any of your listeners who might be building a company, especially in tech. Is it when we start going into larger companies. I'm talking about in our case, independent grocers that are doing $700-800 billion a year in revenue. Coming in with a pitch doesn't make sense. You got to really come out as an advisor and say, let me understand your entire technology posture. What do you have? And are we a fit? And there's no solutions. There's trade-offs, because displacing isn't easy. But if you want to be around another 100 years, you got to either you pay now or pay later. At some point, you're going to pay. And when you look at the fact that 56% of Walmart's revenues are generated by grocery, and they're not grocers first, they are technologists first. That has to be in the back of your mind, as an independent grocer, not only them but others, and that either making decisions, or either deciding on technology or postponing. I think every independent grocer should have a position, and understanding their entire technology posture is really the critical first step.
Yeah, and having a good understanding of it. If I were a salesperson for StoreWise, that would be certainly the approach that I would take, is let's
Yes,
just take a big step back and look at everything you're doing. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So,
yes.
and then from a training perspective, how hard it is once people do give you the green light and you're moving forward, training up the employees.
Yeah. So there's only a handful of users inside a grocer, in operations and pricing and loss prevention. There's an initial onboarding, but over time they learn the system learns them, and you can essentially audit, and they begin to trust it, and you can automate a lot of the actions of the software to where your time investment begins to decrease, but your returns, then you start seeing those returns on time, and in some cases profits begin to increase.
Is there a standard for when prices change in a grocery store? Does it change multiple times throughout the day? Does it change
Yeah,
weekly?
inflation, it costs. I mean, and you'll hear some independent, some grocer. I think some independent grocers will say we didn't change prices, fast enough with inflation. So costs are a big thing, and getting ahead of that. I think we help there. I also think you have to, given that we're capturing, the final step in the shopper's journey, which is the transaction, the sale, that analysis, understanding that market and the consumer is important as well, because we understand which products they're buying. So if they're, for example, if they're now making, if we know a consumer is shopping there every week and they're buying 1 gallon of milk, and now they're shopping every other week and buying 2 gallons of milk, well, they're shopping in your store frequently, but are you sure they're only going to your store, or are they going somewhere else? That's analysis we can provide.
Yeah. And intelligence that I'm sure that everybody would want to know. So I love it.
Yep.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn
Yep.
more about you and StoreWise, and what's the best way
Yep.
to engage?
Yep. So our website, storewise.io, and we are recruiting. So we are looking, and we have about 5 or 6 positions posted on our website. That's important, and most of those positions are in Kansas City. A few of those are remote. So I encourage any of your listeners, and I will also encourage, if there's any advice. And I know I have so much to learn. So if there's another CEO out there that has gone what we're going through, I'm open to taking that phone call or email. But it's www.storewise.io, storewise.io.
Excellent. Well, if you enjoyed as much as I did, show Chris your appreciation and share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. Go to storewise.io and bring our conversation to life and put eyes on what we're actually talking about, and get in touch for the reasons that Chris was just talking about. Thanks again, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, George. Really enjoyed it.
Until next time, remember, do your part by doing your best.